If you have not heard of cryptocurrency, welcome to planet Earth. It is the year 2022, but my guess is that you have actually heard of cryptocurrency, and that's why you're watching this video. Cryptocurrency, the beautiful and wonderful future of finance, the decentralized form of digital money that cannot be controlled or manipulated by the evil likes of banks and governments and corporations. So in today's video, I want to talk about what are the 5 top cryptocurrencies to buy and to hold for life or for forever in 2022. Meaning that if you had to put your money in some cryptocurrencies and you didn't want to have to analyze and think about when to buy, when to sell, what to do, you could just put your money in these coins, walk away for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, come back and not have to worry because you will be so much richer than you were when you started. Well, that's what we're talking about today. What are the top 5 crypto coins to buy and hold forever? And we are starting right now. Hey, what is up everybody? My name is Shaun. I'm a life, finance, and fitness coach helping people create life on their terms in 90 days. I will put some links below to my website and programs below. But if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are everything about money, investing, entrepreneurship, then this is probably the channel for you. So after this video, be sure to check out some of my other videos. Check out my channel. There's all kinds of great content on all those types of things. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to smash the like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and that little notification bell for more videos on these types of topics. Basically, by doing so, it just pushes that YouTube algorithm, lets it know that, hey, these videos are important. There's topics or information that people could utilize or learn from. So it just does me a huge favor and solid. So thank you so much for that. But let's talk about the top 5 cryptocurrencies to own for life. There are all kinds of coins out there. So if you are new, you're probably feeling overwhelmed, or maybe you're not new, but you're just trying to figure out what's those coins to be purchasing. You hear about some that, 100x in the matter of a few weeks, people getting rich off of just a couple bucks, and you're thinking like, okay, where do I get started? If you've been following me and my channel, then you know that my investing style is very different from certain other people's. I'm one of those people who actually believe that if you can't invest in something for 10 years, don't invest in it for 10 minutes. I'm very much a buy and hold type of person. Yes, of course, there are certain things that could skyrocket pretty fast, but true wealth is built over the long term. So when I look at something like cryptocurrency, I'm looking at what would be the things that I could hold on to for a long period of time that's gonna yield really massive returns over time. I don't have to worry about getting rich quick, but I'm getting rich for sure. So what I wanna talk about are what are those 5 coins that you could just set it and forget it. You put some money in, and then you can walk away for a little bit, come back and just be that much richer when you get back. And so let's go ahead and talk about those right now. And be sure to watch this video to the very end because I'm also going to share my investing strategy of how much money you should be putting in and how you should be moving forward in this space so that you can maximize returns but at the same time keep your risk minimized. Okay, so the very first coin on our list is none other than the Holy Grail, the king of crypto, and that is Bitcoin. And this is probably the coin that you've probably heard of the most or the most familiar with. When we think of cryptocurrency, most people think of Bitcoin. I think at this point in time, pretty much every single person has heard the word Bitcoin at one point or another. Now, there are many reasons why I think Bitcoin is going to be a great way of putting your money in and holding for the long term to hedge against inflation. But one of the main reasons is because it is just the largest market cap. It's the biggest one. It's the one that every single person knows about. And it's also probably the least volatile of most of the coins out there. Now, without going into crazy detail about the history of Bitcoin, what it is and why it's so important, a few points that I have to state that make me really certain about its future. When you look at the history of Bitcoin, it has returned around 171% year-over-year returns. That's over 10 times what the S&P 500 has done over the last 10 years. So while Bitcoin is very, very volatile, much more volatile than like an S&P 500 index fund, which you probably hear me talk a lot about on my channel, you are getting paid a lot more for taking on that kind of risk and that volatility. Now, Bitcoin is something that is growing massively, and the reason why I think it has such a great future is because of all the massive institutional adoption that's coming into play. We are just now entering a point where massive institutions are starting to pour huge amounts of capital. We're also seeing things like spot ETFs and even future ETFs that are coming about that's allowing institutions to put large sums of money in. We also, if we look at the adoption rate of Bitcoin, it's absolutely huge. I mean, the cryptocurrency space itself is growing at over 130 some percent year over year. And when you look at even the internet, its adoption rate was only around 60 some percent. So we're seeing this huge adoption rate in this space. We're seeing institutions flooding in. This is an amazing time to be purchasing. Now, it's not to say this might not go down at some point. Of course it may, and it maybe continues to go down at certain points. But over the course of the next few years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's definitely going to be an amazing buy, something that, we'll look at it, 5, 10 years from now and realize how cheap it was at this point. The great thing about Bitcoin is that there's only 21 million coins that were ever made, and most of those coins have been already mined at this point. So because it's only a fixed amount of supply, this will continue to drive the price up over time as more and more people are looking for the few coins that are remaining. With Bitcoin growing and adopting so fast, this will continue to become more valuable over time. So if you're a beginner to cryptocurrency space, you don't know what to invest in, this is honestly the best place for a beginner to start. Put some money in, ride it out over time, stomach the highs and lows of the volatility, and you're going to do just fine. Now, while Bitcoin is digital gold and is definitely a fantastic coin to invest in, this second coin is known as the Internet of Money, also sometimes referred to as digital oil, and that is Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is the second largest by market cap as of this recording, and what makes Ethereum so valuable and different compared to Bitcoin is that while Bitcoin could be a great store of value, Ethereum has a lot of great application uses, and that is because of its use of smart contracts. Now, smart contracts are simply just lines of code that get executed once certain conditions are met. Now, when we start hearing about things like metaverse, NFTs, things of that nature, a lot of those things are being built utilizing smart contracts on the Ethereum platform. Now, Ethereum is growing leaps and bounds mainly because of all the DeFi application, NFTs, metaverse, things like that. And so I do think that Ethereum is going to continue to explode as time goes along, simply because of all the applicational uses that Ethereum allows. Remember, Metcalfe's law states that the value is proportional to the square of the number of nodes in a network. So the third coin on our list is none other than the notorious Ethereum killer, and that is known as Cardano, or ADA. So Cardano was founded by a guy named Charles Hoskinson, which was actually an ex-founder of Ethereum. And the whole reason he created Cardano is because after helping create Ethereum, he found some inefficiencies, some things that he felt that was not really the greatest thing about Ethereum. So the whole point was, let's make it better, more efficient, and more scalable, thus creating Cardano. And Cardano is seeking to be the internet of blockchains, meaning that it's trying to connect all different blockchains together. One of the biggest differences that make Cardano really, really valuable for the potential of smart contract platforms is the fact that it uses what's called a proof of stake instead of a proof of work like Ethereum. So without going into like the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of proof of stake, essentially proof of stake just allows the stakeholders to verify and validate transactions. So look at it like this. With Ethereum, which uses a proof of work model, all the miners have to go in, and every time there's a transaction, they have to update their system and log. So you can imagine, even just little $10 purchases or transactions, every miner has to go in and re-update their platform. So this becomes very, very inefficient and not very scalable when we start adopting this on a massive scale. So when you're using things like proof of stake, this really helps combat those things, making Cardano way more energy efficient, way more time efficient, and a lot more scalable with higher transaction speeds than Ethereum at the moment. So the reason I really like Cardano is because it is essentially a hedge against Ethereum. So while Ethereum is the second largest coin by market cap, it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire future is always going to remain at number 2. Cardano could be a potential contender in defeating Ethereum as the main coin for smart contracts. The fourth coin on our list is another coin that is touted as an Ethereum killer, and that is Solana. Now, Solana is a much newer coin, much newer than things like Bitcoin or Ethereum, which have been around for quite a while. But at Solana, even though it's very new, it's actually one of the fastest growing ecosystems out there with over 400 projects to date, spanning NFTs, DeFi, Web 3.0, and much more. And it's also one of the fastest blockchains out there, allowing for 60,000 transactions per second. Now, for most of you, you're like, I don't even understand what that means, but essentially for these coins become very effective for like mainstream adoption, for uses of, let's say, terms of payment or things like that, we need to have a very high amount of transaction per second speed to handle everybody utilizing this. So for instance, like Visa in general, it usually allows for 1,700 transactions a second. Now, when you look at Bitcoin, for instance, Bitcoin, even though it says it could do 7 transactions a second, it can only guarantee about 4 transactions a second. while Ethereum is doing an average 15 to 45 transactions a second. So while that's great and Ethereum's much faster than Bitcoin, even Ethereum at this moment couldn't handle like nationwide or worldwide adoption for use yet. But when you have something like Solana, which is doing 60,000 transactions a second, it becomes much more capable of scaling on a much larger scale. So Solana is a layer 1 protocol, much like Ethereum, but what's different about it is that it uses what's called a proof of history. Now, this proof of history, once again, without going into a lot of detail, the proof of history just allows for timestamps and different things like that, that once again make it more efficient, much more scalable. Okay, and the fifth and final coin on our list is Polkadot. Now, Polkadot was founded by, once again, another ex-founder of Ethereum by a guy named Gavin Wood. Now, what makes Polkadot kind of unique is that Polkadot allows you to transfer any data or asset across any blockchain platform, not just coins or tokens like most platforms do. Now, the whole vision of Polkadot really is in the realm of Web 3.0, and if you don't know anything about Web 3.0, I would highly suggest that you do some research on it, look into it, because it really is going to be a game changer in the space of internet. It does allow interoperability between blockchains, and what that means is it allows other chains to be built on top of the Polkadot platform or network in general. But essentially what is really cool about Polkadot as well is that, it's very similar to Cardano in some ways, but the thing about Polkadot is that it's actually valued a lot less than Cardano at this point, and I think that mainly is because Polkadot pushes a lot on just development and apps on the platform as opposed to really putting their name in the spotlight. But it is one of the top coins already, but it still is a lower market cap in general compared to things like Bitcoin or Ethereum, which are much, much larger. It's also a user-driven network, which is pretty cool, so meaning that all the stakeholders actually have a voice in the actual development of the app and how things go, and so that's gonna be a lot different than a lot of other platforms or coins in general. So I do think Polkadot also is a coin that you could easily invest in. It's gonna have a really bright future ahead of itself. Now, if you remember in the beginning of the video, I stated I was going to share how I would be approaching this space, how I'd be using my money in this realm. So let's go ahead and talk about that very, very briefly. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a random dude on the internet. Look at this as entertainment purposes. Always do your own research. Know what you're investing in. Invest at your own risk. Even though cryptocurrency is growing astronomically and at a very, very fast rate, keep in mind that it is a very, very new space still. A lot can happen in the future. I mean, it is still possible that this whole space completely vanishes, and maybe 5 years from now we look back on it like we do maybe Beanie Babies and realize like, wow, what was I thinking? I do think it's very unlikely. This space has gotten so big, and with the institutional adoption, I don't think this is going to go away. But we don't know which coin's going to come out ahead, which ones are going to do well. Most coins will probably disappear over time. So because there is a lot of volatility, I wouldn't be YOLOing all my life savings and earnings on one particular coin or even a couple coins, hoping that I can get really, really rich. So my approach is this. So cryptocurrency as a space as a whole, really it sits around a $2 to $3 trillion market cap when you take all the coins and combine them. Now when you look at other asset classes like real estate, stocks, even Forex, most major asset classes usually sit between a $200 to $300 trillion asset size or bigger, especially if you get into things like Forex, which is much, much larger than even things like real estate. So with that in mind, with the adoption rate of 130% growth year over year with cryptocurrency as a whole, being double that of the internet at a 60% adoption rate when it first came out, there's a lot of potential growth here. So with that in mind, I do think that you should be investing anywhere between 0% to 5% of your money into this space. And the reason being is this. Because it's new, there is a possibility that it could tank. And let's say you invest 5% of your net worth, and let's just say this whole space in the next couple years, next year, even the next month completely vanishes, and we realize that it was nothing to have to begin with. Well, you've only lost 5% of your money. That's not a lot. No one likes to lose money. We always try to avoid it, but if you lose 5%, it's not the end of the world. You can easily recover. But let's say that this space grows into the size of like real estate or becomes a major asset class where it's valued at between $200 to $300 trillion or more. That means there's a 100x growth space in this entire realm. And so if you take just 5% and we end up getting over 100x return, you're going to over double your net worth. So that's how I would look at it. Now in terms of how you allocate your 5%, It really depends on your risk tolerance. If you're wanting to keep the absolute least amount of risk possible in a pretty highly volatile space, I would probably put majority of that, 0 to 5% into just Bitcoin, set and forget it. That's the least likely to disappear of all the coins. It's the king, it's the holy grail of all of it. So you're probably safest there. Next, I'd be looking at something like Ethereum, and I'd probably put most of that 0 to 5% between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then maybe leave like a percent or so or two into some of these other coins I mentioned, or any other coin that you want to play with or gamble with at that point, knowing that you could lose money at any time. And if you want to play a little more risk, you could go a little heavier in, let's say, Ethereum, which I do think Ethereum probably has the best risk and reward ratio with the highest amount of growth potential while still minimizing risk. But overall, I would say 0 to 5% of your net worth should go into crypto space. Layer it down between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few other ones, and just kind of do based on your risk tolerance. But anyways, those are the top 5 cryptos to invest in, to own for life, or to hold for forever in 2022. Those set it and forget it ones. If this video gave you value, please be sure to smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you haven't already, for more videos on this topic. Anything money, investing, entrepreneurship, that's what this channel is about. If you are all about those things, then this is absolutely the channel for you. Please be sure to check out some of my other videos. I have some of the links in the description box below. And let's get out there and let's build that dream.